entrepreneurship, business, and economies that have come a long way over the last few decades, despite the many challenges that and the many barriers that entrepreneurs face. Women have also come a long way as well. You know, there was a time in our country where women, particularly Indigenous women, did not have a voice, did not have rights. So we as women have, yes, come a long way. And so we carry with us our strengths, our stories, our voices, our business ideas, our skills, our talents. So we're going to look at business and entrepreneurship in Canada from an Indigenous women perspective. So what makes this market unique? What challenges do we face? What services are available? And what do we need to do? So it sounds like a lot of good information that's going to be passed along our way. I hope when you walk away from today that you walk away inspired, you walk away with some sort of action plan, because we all have a voice. We all have our gifts that we need to lend to the circle to make our communities, to make our home fires, our workplaces, our circles, to make them stronger. So we have definitely, as Indigenous women, a part to play in this. So we're going to quickly introduce. I could be here all afternoon talking about Caledonia because her resume or her information is so long and she has just been involved in so much. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. So she brings a diverse array of skills and experiences to her work. Her Western education, work experience, and cultural teachings provide a well-rounded personal and professional guide. So she's a proud member of Tseshaht First Nation. I tried to give it a go. Please correct me if I was horrible in pronouncing that. So in 2000, her career began in employment under the umbrella of Economic Development Corporation. Her first task was to develop the youth business program, which included the development, coordination, and or facilitation of the mentoring program, which I think is so vital, so important. In 2005, she naturally moved into business services officer position, which broadened her client base to include all ages. In 2013, she moved into analyzing and recommending projects for funding when she accepted a business development officer position. A couple of years later, the experience in the various NEDC positions is proving to be beneficial in her role as NEDC assistant manager. So over the years, she has accumulated an inventory of training and experiences. She graduated with a diploma in business administration, accounting, and business information systems from Camosun College before successfully completing the Royal Roads University's Bachelor of Commerce and Entrepreneurial Management program. Like, wow. She also took the Northern Arizona University Leadership Training and a whole bunch of other training as well. So I just want to assure you that you are all in safe hands. She has exceptional experience and knowledge and training. So we welcome you to the floor. We are so honored that you have carved out an hour of your day today just to lend us your story, your voice, your passion, your experience. So thank you so much for joining us, Caledonia. The floor is yours.
Oh my God, thank you so much for that amazing, amazing welcome. Correction, Tseshaht. It's a very interesting, different spelling. So that was very different. I am so honored to be here with Candu and your amazing participants today. You did an amazing job introducing myself, so I don't think I need to add any additional. Am I co-host on here? I can share screens?
Yes, you are.
Oh, perfect. So a while ago, I was honored to put together a whole day presentation on Indigenous women and how they have been in business throughout this region. So it was very easy, and there has been so much information coming through the pipeline now on Indigenous, like studies for Indigenous business women, where they are. I really like that you touched on the history, because it's so important to honor where we come from. And honestly, I can't help but put my hands up to the women who have come before us, who have set this path for us. Because as an Indigenous people, we've been challenged. And then we get a double whammy as being an Indigenous woman, because now we're a double minority. Is it going to go? So a little bit of stuff on what makes Indigenous business for women different. Why is it so hard to provide services to Indigenous business women in Canada? And I want to touch on this because I find the same thing happens with Indigenous in general and people in general. Canada's huge and Canada's diverse. We all are different everywhere. You can go to the east side is completely different than the west side, which is totally different than the interior, and that let alone up in the north. So every area has unique differences. Every person is different, and it depends where we come from. So I just want to emphasize how diverse it is. Canada's extremely diverse, and the women and Indigenous women within it are extremely diverse as well. One of the stats that comes out when you look at where are Indigenous women doing business is that women, and I can't help but go, this is our nature. We're service providers, we're nurturers. So a lot of women in business tend to be in the service industry. A lot of women in business tend to be in the service industry. 74% of Indigenous women are in the service industry. 74%. And we're extremely underrepresented in traditional sectors that are traditionally male. So construction, natural resources, anywhere where male were predominantly dominant, we still are severely underrepresented in those areas. And we're also very likely to create proprietorships or social enterprise. Those are, and again, because social enterprise, it's about sharing with our community, helping other people, and that's kind of in our nature as well, is to share and help and build and think about not just ourselves, but think about the communities that we're in, the people that we're affecting, building a better world for our children. And that's in our nature as women in general. And that stat actually comes in general as well. It's not just Indigenous women that are both not in traditional sectors or creating social enterprises. Social enterprises are just more of a cultural match for women. Indigenous women are also more likely to work for themselves compared to non-Indigenous women, which is an interesting stat for me, because a non-Indigenous woman, I thought that was huge for us. I'm like, we are more entrepreneurial. We are going to be, sorry, I'm stuttering. I don't usually stutter like this, but there's more Indigenous women-owned business than there is women-owned business in Canada, which is really cool. We are also, our businesses, women-owned businesses, are growing faster than our male counterparts. So when we compare how fast our businesses are growing, the women businesses are exceeding. So I like to cheer that one on. Actually, they're growing women-owned businesses are growing 46%, whereas the male-owned businesses are 36% are growing. However, Indigenous businesses are lower than the Canadian non-Aboriginal counterparts, growing slower than the general public. And that's pretty common. And I can't help but go, you know, it took us, what, a couple centuries to get where we are since Europeans came to this territory. A lot of oppression, a lot of, in both Indigenous and as women. We had no rights. We didn't have a fair playing field, So I think it's really important to look at how far have we come since then. So if it took us 200 years to be oppressed to the point that our communities were absolutely in mayhem, well, since women got rights and Indigenous people got rights, we have done phenomenally. We have come so far. We have so much victories in our pocket. It's something to be extremely proud of. And again, I can't help but put my hands up to the people who came before us to get us here, because it was a hard fight. It wasn't easy. Getting women's rights weren't easy. Getting Indigenous rights weren't easy. And then being an Indigenous woman, that didn't come easy at all. In many communities, we're living in a patriarch. They're dominating some. I was actually talking to a woman, a non-Aboriginal woman, but it goes for both, and going, okay, well, she had a bank account, a credit card line with her husband, and she was the only one paying the bills. But when her husband passed away, she continued paying the bills, but she had to change her address. And when she called the credit card company to change her address, they're like, it was a joint account. But they said, no, we need your husband. We need your husband to do that. You can't do that. So she shut down her credit card company. So it was pretty much, we can't own anything. You can't own a business. You couldn't own a business as an Aboriginal person. You definitely couldn't own a business as a woman person. You didn't have those rights at one point. So now that we can, here in British Columbia, here in our organization, women represent a huge amount of leadership, business owners. They're an active part of all areas of the community. However, that's not the truth across Canada. And I was very naive to think that it was equal all over Canada, only to find out that one of my colleagues went over to the east, northern east, and they weren't even allowed to look at a man in the eye. They weren't allowed to talk to a male unless there was another person present. And I'm like, and this is happening all over Canada. And I'm like, that's unreal. I can't believe this is even happening. That's here. So as much as I'm going to present from the perspective that I have and the research that I've done, I'm not naive to think that this is the truth for the rest of Canada. So there's still a lot of work that we need to do. Income disparity. We know as women that we often don't make as much as our male counterparts. And the statistic is 1/3. Self-employed males earn 1/3 more than their woman counterparts, which is, to me, unfair. It's just unfair. We're in 2021 now. I think it's fair that I think it should be we are paid for the skills and what we bring to the table. So there's still a lot of work that we need to do, but I really don't want to outshadow the successes that we've made so far. We've made huge amounts of strides from where we were. And when I say, if it took us 200, 300 years to get where we are, and we've come this far in just a couple decades, imagine where we will end up going forward. And I also plead with all the other people, give us that time. Give us that time and support to get there, because it's so important to provide that support to our communities, to our women, and to the Indigenous women. The huge benefit is that there's a big light on it right now. And there's a lot of different programs and funding that are coming through that. There's lots of studies. There's a few studies that have been done really recently. Oh. Sorry, I thought if I clicked here, that would change, but it didn't. So for women in business, there are numerous obstacles to running a business. One is we have social, which includes family and childcare obligations, financial, which is funding and expertise, access to support systems in the financial regime. There's regulatory, and some of them are being changed. Aboriginal business specific laws, reservation issues. There's other issues, including self-defeating behaviors, and that's real. That happens inside of us. So some of our challenges are because of our minds, because of our self-confidence, and then some of them are the resources, because they're all over the place and nobody's bringing them into one central house to make it easy for us to find the resources, the training, the mentoring. So with social issues that come out of it, they're often things like household responsibilities and sharing those household responsibilities. So trying to get away from women being the primary people in the home that are responsible for cleaning the house, taking care of the children, getting children to and from daycare. It's changing, but statistically, we're not there yet. Statistically, women still are the primary caregivers, or are doing a lot with their children. Some is transportation, because often there's not two vehicles in a home, or you need a juggle, or maybe there's no, they don't have a driver's license, so they can't pick up the materials and the supplies that they need, or go to a different area that they need. So that's a big challenge and it really is a regional challenge, because in some areas it's a lot easier. If you're in Vancouver, well, with the exception of picking up bulk items or something, there's a lot of transit. They have one of the best transit systems there. However, if you're in northern Saskatchewan, what kind of transit system do you have? What kind of means, like, do you have Uber there to help pick you up? What resources do they have to do what they need to do? And then what kind of support systems do they have in there? So in urban areas, a lot of the places you can go and get your driver's training supported. They can pay for your driver's training to help you get your driver's license, and they can help you overcome some of those obstacles. In some areas of Canada, that's not the case. They still aren't there yet. They don't have access to those types of support systems. The financial obstacles are often business funding, knowing, like, go out there and tell everybody you can about what kind of business funding is available, because often women are taking the money out of their own pocket to support their business. and that's it. They're not going to get loans. Some are fears, but a lot of the time they just don't know where to go, and they don't know who to talk to. Sometimes they're not funded, whether it be they don't have the equity to put towards getting the loan, or they don't have collateral or security to put up and pledge for a loan. That makes it really, really challenging to grow and develop your business when you don't have basic financial resources that a lot of other people have benefited from. The government gave out lots of money to lots of other people and organizations. And before it was super easy for men to go into a bank and get financing. As for a woman, unfortunately, there is still that thing, that barrier there. I call it an ugly barrier because I don't want to experience that. If I go get financing, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't want no person on the other side, especially a male, telling me that or questioning my ability to repay a loan just because I'm a woman. Like that, we need to change out there. Yeah. So, and then the credit. About here where I work at NEDC, we give out a lot of financing. And I would say a minimum of the turndowns that we make are the majority are because of credit. Sorry. So of the people that are coming in, the ones that we're turning away are probably, I would say, about 80% is because they've made a lot of credit mistakes that they haven't rectified yet. And so it makes a barrier right away. Now, fortunately for us, we're a high risk lender. So we will give people chances who don't have very good credit ratings, who've made mistakes. If their business makes sense, we will take a chance. If we think we can, especially if we can put those support systems in place. Now, when you compare our Aboriginal Capital Corporation to others portfolios across the nation, they do not have those stats. So we have 50% plus of our loans are to women or male-female partnerships. 50%. So it's still a little bit lower than where we need to be, but it's pretty good overall. When you compare that to Aboriginal Capital Corporations nationwide, they're not there. Women are significantly less funded than men across the nation. And I think that needs to be changed because I think we need a higher tolerance for risk, because NEDC here, we have a lower default rate than a commercial bank. We're a high risk lender, but people are repaying their loans because we find that people tend to want to repay their loans. They want to be able to conduct business going forward. So we need to change that mindset across Canada to say, hey, let's give people more chances. Let's lift them up. And a lot of the times the credit issues comes because they didn't know. They didn't teach us in school how to manage credit cards or make sure we pay our credit card on the date, the minimum payment due every single month. I messed up lots. But once I learned, then it was easier and made me more fundable, if you may. Another challenge is the laws, treaties. Like there's a lot of places that don't have business rules on reserve. So there's a lot of First Nations communities that don't have business licensing regimes or don't have a really clean, easy process to understand how to start a business on reserve. Some do, but from what I've seen, very few do. There's a lot of First Nations that still need to develop a process for how to develop a business on reserve. If you live in a city, it's easy. You go down to City Hall, you get a business license, you register with the province, and you're pretty good. On reserve, it's not that easy. There's often you're having to get the business, the council to give you a BCR to say that you can operate, or they could just decide, okay, we don't want you operating. And then it becomes a real personal decision instead of does it make sense to have this business in our community? In some communities, we're still facing like the Hatfields and McCoys kind of thing, where you're from the wrong family, or you might have rubbed somebody the wrong way along the way because it was a small community. And so creating some challenges in getting through the regulations and developing a business in that community. The matrimonial assets has changed to a degree. Matrimonial assets on reserve was a really, really big issue, because if you weren't from that tribe, you didn't have any rights to your home, to the home that you and your husband lived in. If you guys separated, you would be the one that was having to move because you weren't from that community. Thankfully, there's been a lot of work done. However, I still think there needs to be some work in that area of, because I think it's a lack of communication more now, because now that they've changed the rules, a lot of people still don't know that. And that hasn't been communicated to the mainstream that's not the case anymore. I think this is huge. This one is absolutely huge. Both discrimination and self-esteem have been huge. And I say this knowing that it's not just women, because I believe that the residential school had a massive impact on self-esteem for First Nations people. The whole intent of it was to degrade, rip people apart. They were going to put us into the mainstream and we're supposed to be all good. But in doing that, they degraded, they humiliated, they abused, and a lot of people came out of that system with massive, massive self-esteem issues, the self-worth issues. Oh, sorry. I saw a post up here and I thought it was a question. So building people up, and I'm not talking about creating classrooms and getting people to stand or present to you, to look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself all the time. I'm not saying that that doesn't work for some people, but I think we need to develop more systems to praise. From my own experience, I was raised in a household of residential school survivors, and none of them, my parents, my grandparents, none of them were taught how to build people up, and because they were ripped apart. And so when I was growing up, I never got praise. It wasn't until I was 21 years old that I even knew what in my home, what praise felt like, because nobody was taught how to do that. And because of multiple generations going through the residential school, we ended up in a place where we forgot how to do that. And so now I really want a big focus on, we need to learn how to support each other. What does that look like? What does it look like to say, hey, you're doing a really amazing job? And I'm really honored to see so much of that happening in our society today. And I can't help but go, we're moving, yay, it's working, it's going. The other is racism. I mean, this one's a really big beast. And I think because of the things that have been happening in our society, both North American and Canadian, we see a big light being shined on that right now, especially considering who the former president was. I think it brought people out of the woodwork. And I thought prior to that we were kind of moving in there. But unfortunately, I just realized that it was, they were just hidden better. And so in the last couple of years, I've really realized that it's still there. It's still there. So I think that there just needs to be more education and more sharing and more celebrating and more telling people, look, we're doing amazing things. We are very useful contributors to our societies, to our tax dollars, like to rebut some of the stuff that's been said about First Nations people and how we're draining the system, rather it's really celebrating how much we contribute to our economies and help develop our economies. Another challenge is in resources. The education and training resources, training opportunities, the knowledge of where they are. How do you get it? And I'm going to go through a lot of resources in a little bit. I think things have been growing quick. The women's movement lately has moved really, really quick. And I am so excited for what's going to come. Because even though we have gotten this far, I can only imagine where we could be. And it excites me. It really excites me. I've been here for almost 21 years now at NEDC, and I've got to watch the changes in our economy and the changes in our community. And I truly believe in the power of women in our economy, because in a male-dominated economy, they were rape and pillaging everything. They were destroying everything. They weren't considering humans. I mean, it really was frustrating being in school when I first went to get my business diploma, because it didn't fit. The information they were providing didn't fit with me culturally as a woman. The things that they were telling us to do, lie and deceive in marketing, deceive people to trick them into buying your product. And I'm going, can't we just sell good products and make a good impact in our community and society? Why would we need to deceive people or trick people into buying things? So there's been a change though. So back then, if you were taking business administration training, you'd get this little teeny box, one per chapter, that said, hey, maybe you should think about the society, their social issues. Maybe you should think about the people. Or you might get a box saying, hey, maybe you should think about the environment in your business and what impacts you might have. But that was it. You didn't get very much. It was very minimal when you took business training on ethics or morals or how our business is impacting. It's make as much money as you can. As much money. That's your whole job. Just make as much money. It doesn't matter how much you're destroying the environment or how many people you're hurting in the process. Just that's your obligation as the manager of this corporation, because that's what corporations are built. And then in 2009, what happened? The economy bombed. It bombed hard. Why? And I can't help but go, because of what you're teaching these business people. You're teaching them not to think about the rest of the stuff that's out there. You're teaching them bad ethics, bad morals, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I can, take all of that. That's all just my opinion from what I've seen and what I've experienced. And so I went back to school in 2009 and everything changed. In 2010, we're now looking at why did that happen? What happened there? And all of a sudden, we have entire courses now on ethics and social responsibility, environmental impacts, and things started changing. So over the last decade, I feel like I fit in business more because before that, I'm like, I don't want to do that stuff. I can't, it doesn't go with who I am as a person. So that's also something that women in general have struggled with, is some of the ways that they were telling or saying is the appropriate way to do business was not within who we are as nurturers and caregivers in our communities. So now that we see that, there's a whole new slew of types of businesses. Like there's activities and businesses that are all about building our communities and sharing wealth, not it being an individual, the business is the only one that makes money, but more, that's where those social enterprises come in to go, how do we share money in the whole community so that everybody's benefiting from this rather than just one person benefiting from it? So I want to go over some resources, and the one, I wonder if I will pull it up. Sorry, I need to apologize too. I was late. I wasn't normally late, but I in my head I didn't. In my head, I thought that I was still had minutes after my last presentation before I came into this one. And so it was the East, or the, what is it, Mountain Time versus Pacific Time. And I'm like, oh no, I usually am really good at that, but not today. Not when I was teaching a bunch of 7-year-olds or grade 7s about financial literacy. So I'm just going to type in the LIFT Collective. Have any of you guys heard about the LIFT Collective? Oh, you guys are missing out. So I'm going to share. New share. So this is the LIFT Collective. And they're a group of women who are empowering each other. They're women entrepreneurs who are coming together to share information and support each other every Sunday. They do Zoom calls, and you get to share and grow and, you know, ask questions about where people, that they share all kinds of resources. They help give you, point you. It's like a whole group of mentors, because some of them have amazing businesses out there. Some are very new. So it is an amazing collective. And I want to do the circle. Where are you? So they have a LIFT circle. That's the one that I'd really think that would be super beneficial. So if you Google LIFT Collective, every Sunday they get together on a Zoom call and support each other. And I've heard many entrepreneurs around here jump into this collective and get little tidbits of information that are just so amazing that help their business. Because, you know, with everybody coming together, the amount of information that you can get in one room is unbelievable. Like, I remember this one lady in there. She has so much information. She has so many resources. She knows where to get money and how to get money, and she's willing to share it with anybody who wants to know. And that's the wonderful thing about being a woman, is we're more than willing to share all this amazing information and support each other. So in this collective, all you have to do is be an Aboriginal woman entrepreneur, and they'll let you in. And the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that you can join a database. They have a database created of Aboriginal women entrepreneurs. Oh, and if you click this link right here, the connect with us, you get to email them directly to ask to be added to that database. So If anybody wants to support other Aboriginal women businesses, then you can go to that database and find all different kinds of service providers in there. And then the other one, so please contact Lyft. The other one is SheEO. Have you heard of SheEO? Michelle's heard of SheEO. This to me is super exciting. Joining together as Aboriginal women is one thing. This is a whole global woman collective. This is women pooling money to help other Aboriginal or other women, not Aboriginal, it's not specific Aboriginal, but what's that? Like, I can't, I'm sorry, lost for words for this one because it has me so excited. You know, $1 billion fund, $1 billion fund, women coming together, pooling our money to say and I actually wanted to do this as a Canadian Aboriginal women type fund as well, because I join a fund here where it's just to give to charity. It's called 100 Women, and every week, well over 100 women now every 3 months we pool $100 and then end up giving like $10,000+ to a local charity here in town every 3 months. And that's what these guys are doing, but they're doing it by funding business. They're doing it by funding women business. And I love when people come together. I love when we support each other. And this is what women are all about, is helping support and bring people up. So take a look at SheEO. I think they're doing absolutely amazing work. It may be a source of funding, and if not, and it could be a resource for you to see and learn from other women. So very exciting work that they're doing there. Here on the West Coast, sorry, I'm gonna switch back. Where are we? Here on the West Coast, we have Women's Business Network. It's a provincial organization. It is national too. So there should be a women's business network within your province, and the Women's Business Network. Sorry, I got it confused with Women's Enterprise Center. The Women's Enterprise Center is a provincial enterprise, and they are all over Canada. But the Women's Business Network was here in town, grew, and in all different other communities. They're not everywhere, but it doesn't mean that you can't create one. And just like the Lyft Collective is an online forum of women, this one is a more physical, pre-COVID, because we could actually meet together pre-COVID, where a bunch of like-minded entrepreneurs just got together and shared a meal together, supported each other, helped bring fun or training into the community to inspire and lift up and give skills and resources to the women entrepreneurs in our region. This one wasn't an Aboriginal one, but it didn't matter. They were so welcoming and so inviting to the community. I think there is a Women's Business Network. I think that I found something in the Saskatchewan region on a Women's Business Network. And then in Saskatchewan, there's the Women's Development Program. Are you guys familiar with the Women's Development Program? I don't have a lot of information about them. I just found them. So let's take a quick look. Women's Development Program. Saskatchewan. So it's Clarence Campio has developed their fund has developed a women's development program. It is a source of funding. You can get money from there, and you can just Google their name and it comes right up. Also, there is a Métis Women Entrepreneurs of Canada for the Métis women out there. There's the Women's Enterprise Center, which has grown amazingly along the way. In British Columbia, they started out as this really small fund, very similar to the Aboriginal Capital Corporations when we started out. And they've grown to have all different kinds of resources out there. So you can get financing from there. You can get a mentor from there, a one-on-one mentor. You can get business support there. As well, they're now, at least the one here, is starting to focus on Aboriginal as well, because they're starting to get some Aboriginal funding into their entities. So they're really welcoming Aboriginal women into their organization. In Alberta, there's a program called Next Step to Success. And I honestly am not familiar with them, but when I looked them up, I thought that they would be a good resource to mention. Do we have anybody from Alberta in here? I can't hear anybody. So in the Next Steps to Success, they have guidance, expertise, and peer mentoring for early startup phases of business to Indigenous women who are ready to develop a comprehensive business plan that could be used for financing purposes. So that's actually amazing, because getting that support in the planning stages of your business, and that's another fun fact about women in business, they plan better. They plan better than their male counterparts. They're definitely more serious about making sure it's going to work, as opposed to several men, not all men. There's some men that are very tedious in getting, or meticulous in getting their planning down, but there's many men that will just jump right into business, no planning or anything. Not saying there's no women like that, but statistically there's less for sure. And then there's a program called the Native Women's Association of Canada. Some of these came from these studies. So because NACA, the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association, and there's some other organizations that have done studies on Indigenous women, they've come up with a bunch of recommendations to Canada or to the provinces or to their funders that have commissioned them and have said, this is what we think you need to do. And so now there's more resources coming or focused towards women. So the Native Women's Association is one that I believe came from that. If I had a little time, thinking that I had 40 minutes between my last presentation and this one, I would have had all of this ready to go. So the Native Women's Association of Canada is there to enhance, promote, and foster social, economic, and cultural and political well-beings of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit women. They have, I believe this is the one that had a fund. And unfortunately, I don't have the tag, so I'm not going to be there. They're one that I think is worth to take a look and see what resources they may have. There was also another one called Pektuit, Inuit Women of Canada. It's a fund specifically for, I'm not going to try the first one. I'm not sure I'm saying that exactly right, but Inuit Women of Canada. Some general resources out there. Futurepreneur is a really amazing resource. If you want to write a business plan, they have an amazing business plan writer that makes life so much easier. If you're wanting to write a business plan and you kind of already have an idea what you want to do. Go to Futurepreneur or Google Futurepreneur business plan writer. You'll have to set up an account for them, but that means that you can save your business plan right online and download Word and PDF versions. They also have a cash flow projector tool that will allow you to do your projections, again, saving it and easily downloading it so that you can edit it later. I like saving things in Word, in editable documents. Don't just save PDF stuff, so that when you are going to edit it later, it's easy. It's nice and easy. You have it. And then ideally, you take that once you've downloaded it to your computer and you email it to yourself. And I say that because I have a lot of women or entrepreneurs in general who are like, I lost my plan. I don't know where my plan is anymore. And so I'm like, well, email it to yourself, save it, create a folder in your email that is business resource or business documents, and save all of them there. That way they're super easy to get to, and you have them at, and I should caveat this, make sure this email is one that you're not going to lose the email account. So if it's a brand new email that you just set up, make sure you set it up so that you can always get into that email. I made the mistake of creating an email and I forgot the password, and now I can't get into the account. And I tried to recover that account, and all I get is, we're just suggesting you just create a new account. Thankfully, there was nothing in there, thankfully. But make sure that it's like you've done everything you can to make sure you can get into that account, and you have protected it so that nobody can hack into it. The two-level security authorization stuff. Make sure that you get all of that in place as well. So Futurepreneur, business plan writer, and projections, they also have financing. So they have, and they're focusing a lot on Aboriginal people right now. They're creating partnerships with the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation. They have a partnership with us. They have a partnership with the Nuu-chah-nulth Economic Development Corporation. They have a partnership with other Aboriginal capital corporations throughout Canada. And they're focusing on trying to increase the number of Aboriginal owned business. So it's not women specific, but it's an amazing resource. So you can get loans. I think it's like $40,000 or $40,000 is their initial loan. But then they also partner with the Business Development Bank of Canada, who also will give you a loan through them as well. Now, I would suggest to go to an Aboriginal Capital Corporation or Aboriginal financial institution that has the business equity program, or Canada changes the names of their programs all the time, so it's hard to keep up with the names of the programs that they're delivering. I think it's called the Indigenous Business and Entrepreneurship Program right now. You don't need to know the name. The Aboriginal Capital Corporation or Aboriginal Financial Institution have what people always refer to as grants. They're not grants. They're kind of grants. They are non-repayable money, but they've renamed them to contributions. Amazing free money. I can't help but go, try to get as much free money. There is, like here in British Columbia, we get some programs that are in giving or give money out to Indigenous businesses. These programs are everywhere. They're all over the place. So talk to your Aboriginal financial institution or Aboriginal Capital Corporation and try to maximize the amount of free money that you can get. Like I said, a lot of women are taking money out of their own pocket or using their credit card to finance their business. And if I told you, hey, Michelle, if you do a business plan and bring it to me, I'll give you a 50% discount on everything that you're going to buy. Would you say yes to that? because that's the free money that you can get. Sometimes it can be as much as 60% of the total project costs you don't have to pay back. Sometimes it can be 20%, but to me, free money's free money. I like free money. And then you're doing your business planning anyway. Well, you should be doing your business planning anyway. Then there's chambers of commerce all over the place. Talk to your local chamber of commerce. They always have different training programs, or they have dental programs. Like, all the chambers of commerce are different. Some have extended health benefits through them. Some have marketing supports through them. Find out what your local chamber of commerce has to offer. Small Business BC has tons of training, and lately they've been offering a ton of free training. That's provincial. I'm sorry I didn't look into what the organization would be in your region. The National Business Directory, get your name in there to make sure that your business is listed in these. Never mind just this one. Put your business everywhere. Find every directory and put it in there. You want to get as much marketing out there as possible. Make sure you tap into all your other resources. There's lots of entrepreneurs. I say that, but be careful about taking advice, because sometimes they're not the experts. And I've seen lots of entrepreneurs get bad advice from family, friends, etc. But there's all different kinds of consultants, mentoring programs. Friendship centers are now doing a lot of entrepreneurial type training. Then sometimes you could also tap into universities and colleges and stuff like that who have business students that you might be able, because they all have to do projects, and a lot of them are looking for projects to do. So why not tap into them and say, hey, can you help me with marketing or financing or understanding my financial statements or setting up a strategic plan somewhere? So there's lots there. And then the banks are a resource they have lots of resources through banks, lots of different calculators and resources. It's good to talk to professionals to see what is available. And then the other that I wanted to point out is industry-specific associations and publications. So if there is an association related to your type of business, Google for that and see what they have to offer you. Because sometimes some of them have marketing support, like the tourism, the Tourism Association, both national and provincial, have given out tons of money during COVID, like grants. Like I heard of one person getting over $80,000 in grants during this COVID to help their business. So don't isolate yourself more than anything. Don't think you're alone in this. Don't think that there's no resources for you. There is. It's all over the place. So the next was, what do we need to do? I've went through that all the way through. Support, really promote and get out, work on our self-confidence and self-esteem. And don't be shy to ask for help. Don't be shy to ask other people. At minimum, join the collective, join the Women Business Collective. And that's what I got. I'm like, I'm going over. Oh no. Like, I talked fast enough, so just plowing through.
Wow, I feel like you just breathed some hope. Really good resources. Thank you so much for your presentation. So I'm one from Alberta, and I did connect with Next Steps to Success when I was in my business early on. And I gotta tell you, when you make those connections, when you reach out, so you receive the supports that are there for you, that will only help you and your idea and your business and your vision grow. So I just thank you for touching on those opportunities, those spaces where they are meant to be there to support us. So make those connections, get on those business lists, connect with other entrepreneurs. It's all about growth. It's all about stepping up our game. It's all about education. And I feel like we are just surrounded by support. If we were just to reach out. So thank you so much. There was so many resources that I didn't even know about. So I'm going to be doing some Googling later on. So thank you so much. One of the pieces that I really, really appreciate was you touching on the self-confidence and self-esteem and some of those, mentality limits, like the limiting beliefs that we have that get in our way of really succeeding and really pushing our business to the next level. So I thank you so much for touching on it. I don't think it's touched on enough in the business world. So we do have just but a couple of moments. Does anyone have a question or a comment? Feel free to unmute yourself, use that chat box. We would love to hear from you.
Hi, Caledonia. It's Susan Clark, one of your graduates from 2012 with Aboriginal Path.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Susan, for speaking. Anyone else? Comments, questions?
I have a welcome. Hi, Caledonia. Nice to meet you. I've actually emailed you a couple of times. I'm in Port Alberni. I'm with Tiger's Eye. Yeah. And anyway, I just wanted to do a quick resource here through, you were mentioning Women Enterprise Center. And it's something that maybe Caledonia through NEDC you can contact, or maybe some of the other women entrepreneurs will like this, but I'm currently facilitating a Taking the Stage program. And what this is it's specifically to what we're talking about, confidence, how to use your voice, how to take up space, right? And it is, it's probably one of the programs, I didn't create it. It's done through Humpy Group, and it's actually a $5,000 program for each person to take, but through the Women Enterprise Center, they offer it at $150 specifically for women entrepreneurs. And what I did is, when I'm teaching it now, I have 10 females in there, and it's, you can even get bursaries too. So it's completely paid for. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that's a really good, potentially a really good resource. And I don't know if it would be me teaching or somebody else, but regardless, maybe reach out to the Women Enterprise Center, or everybody can just Google and see when the next Taking the Stage is.
Thank you, Denise. We delivered that program, and then NEDC
Did you?
sponsored the fee
Awesome.
for everybody.
Okay,
so
great.
We actually offered it for free.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well then I don't have to say how great it was. It's probably honestly one of the best programs I've ever taken.
They also have another program. It's a peer mentoring group where we brought together 6 people in one room every month and helped people move their businesses along by helping support making goals and holding people accountable to moving those goals forward. So it was awesome.
I need that. I'm having issues right now with that. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed that presentation. I got a lot of really good resources out of that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Denise, for sharing your resource. That sounds like an excellent resource for women to connect with. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I know Caledonia is joining us, Links for Learning, on Thursday. So if you feel like, wow, I could listen to this again, maybe there's some pieces that I missed, you're welcome to join us on Thursday. Now that, I believe it's at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that would be, if we go back, I think that's an hour behind if you're in BC time. So thank you so much. We really appreciate, we really honor the gift of your voice, the gift that you have shared your experience and clearly your passion for women, Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So we thank you so much for lending your time this afternoon. I feel like we could have talked a lot more, so you managed to capture a lot in this short amount of time. So I thank you for that. Thank you everybody for joining us. I feel always so honored when I get to be in circle. I know this is not ideal, but we're in a virtual circle here. I feel so honored to be in a circle with you all. We do give thanks to Creator for the gift of another day. I mean, we got some rain happening here, so we give thanks for that gift. We give thanks for the land, the waters, our relatives, our family, our chosen family. We give thanks for all of these gifts that have been given to us. And may you continue on your day in a good way, that you walk with a good mind, good thought, good heart. And when we do that, our path can only be good. So be well. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again. So, aye.